Okay, so it's been a couple weeks, and I hope you've explored standing with your feet either, basically together. My thumbs make it look not together. Together or at this. I recommended this one specifically, but they both work pretty well. They both are very valuable for developing that sense of, whoa, when you get off to that side and it's like, can I rest back to center? So I hope you've been playing with it. We're going to keep playing with that. And what I'm going to recommend you do is pause the video and do like 5 minutes of meditation really quick. That way I don't have to always do long meditation videos to calm you guys down before I do the rest of the exercise. Let me turn this around because that's going to be really bright and difficult to look at for you. And you guys do the thing. Do a little meditation, come back, and take a look at the next bit. Okay, so I'm going to meditate with you just for a moment here at the end as you've turned your cameras back on, in theory. I'm going to process it out loud for just a minute. So this is a down-weighted exercise, and a deep relaxation exercise is our primary. We're trying to be aware of the bottom of our feet, and the bottom of our perineum, that's your crotch. And you want to learn how to find where exactly down is, by the way. I actually can't quite get my hips pointed quite down in this angle. So just some specs for thoughts. And there's the swaying. And as I breathe and talk, my swaying's a little bit bigger than you guys, since I'm going to be taking bigger breaths to talk. So I feel this sway happening towards my front right. And then it sways back to the edge. I thought I was going to get too tense for a moment. I relaxed it away. I came back to the center. Getting back towards my heels now. How do I rest back to center? Forward, left, I'm swaying. Oh, I'm getting really up on the edge. I'm just going to go ahead and fall. So that's sort of our next move. So we're going to look at swaying, and when you come up to the edge, a little bit more centered here. When you come up to that edge, there's two options. And one of them is I got up close to the edge. I feel the tensions coming up. I'm going to see if I can rest those back down. And then I'll sway back to center. And so I want you to play around with touching all your edges. Deliberately sway back to those heels till you feel the tensions coming up. And then how can you let the tensions down to sink back to your center? Or again, if I sway too far off to the side, oh, this time I'm definitely falling. We're going to point out that I'm falling into perfect harmonies in just a moment. I'm going to pull up the camera and take a look, but that's where we're going. So sometimes you get up to an edge, you're too close to the edge, you cross that boundary and you're going to fall unless you do some sort of tense, clench, grah. Don't do any of the tense, clench, grah. Just go ahead and fall. So the whole meditation is I'm going to sway out to the edges. I'm going to feel those edges deliberately. And then I'm going to see how to rest back to center. Keep playing with that, and then we'll go into a step 2 of the same thing. Get too far to one edge, let my center take me off in a direction, landing in a perfect harmony. Let's see if I can show you. I'm landing in this hominy here for the record. So there's, and I'm not sure how well you can see. There's one where basically we're making a T with our heel to the middle of our foot and we step back, and that's our hominy. That's a really narrow hominy. It's not the one O-sensei recommended, but you will pass through it doing good Aikido. Pass through it all the time. O-sensei recommended the one I'm referencing here, where it's more like we've got our feet in this heeled position, but then one of them is going to go straight forward. So you've got whatever that angle is back there, 45-ish degrees for me here, to my front foot happening. And there's other kinesiological things we're going to look at in regards to that as well, that specific stance. There's a lot of Aikidoka who prefer the T version. There's even a school, though they're rare, of people who actually stand almost like this. It's almost like an L stance from Bakwa. Sensei Bennett used to do it sometimes for certain feeds, and you will pass through it as you're studying good Aikido. You're going to roll through more stances than just one. But this first one here that I'm talking about, where we've got sort of a 45-ish degree angle with the back leg and our heels are basically on the same line, that's the one I remember reading O-sensei say, that's the one. And there's 3 kinesiological points that we're going to make about that specific stance in the next couple weeks. Today's kinesiological point has to do with when we take that fall. So, how do we take that fall? Okay, you felt out the edges, you're getting a sense for it, come over to the side and it gets too tense and you say, oh. And by the way, that sensation, I often bend my knee ever so slightly when I do that. Bending the knees will bring you back into alignment pretty well. It's not just from the knees though, it's from here. So I get up over here and I'm like, okay, so I get all this tensions coming up, trying to hold me there. And I say, and I tend to sink back towards center. And you're going to find that the lower your knees are bent, the less you sway around. This is a general kinesiological point of Aikido, Tai Chi, Bakwa, and great many other martial arts, is that if your knees are more bent, you have a better, more solid base. So I think we know that exercise now. So this, we've been working on going back to center, but what if you actually want to walk? Here's a key point that I really want everybody to understand about really good movement. Most of the time you can use less energetic musculature and strength to begin motion. You don't have to use tension to begin motion. Now, if you're laying flat on the ground and your muscles are flaccid from laying there and doing some blissed out deep relaxation, you definitely have to activate some muscles. But if you're already standing, your muscles are already activated, and they're activated all the way around in a way that's keeping you upright. And all I have to do really good Aikido movement, and this is all the best teachers I've heard say this exact same thing, all the best, most skillful Aikidoka I've touched hands with, I'm going to fall to make my motion happen. Okay, what does that mean, right? Well, gravity is a continuous experience. I'm being shoved into the ground continuously. There's not a single moment it's not happening. So in a sense, if the ground were to disappear, I am falling. This is a bit paradoxical because obviously I'm on the floor right now, but I just want you to hear that sort of extrapolation. If I was on the second floor, the floor disappeared, I'm hitting the ground below it, right? I'm falling already, and it's instant. Gravity is continuous and instant. We'll talk about how important that is over the coming weeks, but for today, all I have to do, and this is the key point I want to bring across, is I have to, from here down, let go in the direction that I want to move. So I'm going to just go forward first. Get in my body here for a moment. I'm going to keep the musculature up here active. So I'm going to stay upright And you don't have to do a big one, by the way. It can be very small. You can gently walk up to the edge. And then I'm just going to let go with these muscles. Perfect harmony. I think you guys can see it too. I'm not trying to make the harmony. It happens inherently. This is the true genius of the really great Aikidoka. They're just teaching you how to be natural again. So I let go in the direction I want to fall, in the direction I want to walk. Say I want to walk this way. I'm going to shut down all of this for a moment. Shut it down, turn it back on, right? It's a blinker. Perfect harmony. Just wonderful. I got to move my lift around for a backwards one. So if I want to fall, actually I said backwards, let's do backwards. I'm going to just fall backwards now. So I'm just going to turn off the energy that's holding me up in the back of my legs. Perfect harmony. So play with this for a while. You're going to find sometimes you don't land in perfect harmonies. And if you really track on what's going on in your body, you'll start realizing, oh, I didn't quite turn off everything, or I was holding a weird tension here and it made me do something wonky. That's all good stuff. Don't worry about it. It's just part of the experience of learning it. If I want to turn that way but fall that way, perfect harmony. So what did I do there? I just totally took the energy off of me that way and pulled this guy around slightly. Just a little tiny bit of energy. So I turn off all of this, slight bit of energy here. Perfect harmony. So this is one of the key points that I want us to start learning, is that you can use deep relaxation to move. Let's try a different angle. I think you can see me down here. Yeah. So if I want to move in the direction that this arm is holding me up, I let it go. Let's see, maybe kind of funny to do a video like this. But maybe I want to go in the direction backwards. Well, there's a lot kind of holding me. These two guys are kind of keeping me from really fully falling that way, but I can still do it. I can relax my muscles. Did I just say muscles? I think I did. You can relax your muscles in order to make the motion start. I can even be like this and say, I want to move that way. What's holding me up that way? Let go of it. And you can just keep finding position after position after position. And the key lesson I want you to take today is use deeper relaxation to start your motion. The one caveat being you cannot do it while you're flat on your back on the ground. But anytime you're holding yourself up at all, like just right now, a little wonky because I've got this short leg, long leg thing and I'm not doing a proper, proper Shiko walking thing. But nevertheless, I can be like, what's holding me up in that direction right now? And my body will start to go that direction because I took away the stuff that was holding me back rather than adding to. You're going to find a lot of people who have never really dialed in on this piece of knowledge in soft martial arts and Aikido. It's literally what Sensei Bennett got me walking again with. It's this kind of knowledge. It can be really easy to underestimate just how much damage has happened to my body over the years. I would have never made it if it wasn't for what Sensei Bennett taught me. And I've had a handful of really great teachers, don't take me wrong, but the entire time I've been training down in this other dojo, I have not yet once run into people talking about the information sets that were important for me as a cripple to heal and start moving and walking. So it's really kind of fascinating because we've got two different schools kind of blending right now, and they're very kind of opposite schools in a way, even though they're both ASU, but they're kind of opposite in a way. And nevertheless, the more yin side, the more yang side, none of them are dealing with this knowledge set. They'll say it occasionally. But they don't really deal with it. And so really working with these kinds of exercises, coming back and saying, how can I use less effort to do a thing rather than more? That's the stuff. So go ahead and play around with this a bunch. Do try and spot that you can usually, I'll usually fall into Hominy from these positions too. If I got my feet square and I'm like, okay, name the direction. Which direction will I go? I'll go this way. Maybe just a skosh off from a perfect Hominy. We try another one or two, just as an example. Feet wider. We'll let go back here. And that one's almost perfect. My toes getting caught on my lift aside. Okay. So I highly recommend playing with a few of these. First, this exercise. Hang out here. Practice just turning off in the direction you want to go first. So I want to go sideways. I'll go sideways. Nice Hominy. And then recognize, of course, that step 2, so once you get really cozy with that, I guess that's step 3, because step 1 is actually learning to be centered here and gather yourself at the earth and be grounded. It's the coming to the edge, but then settling back to center. Step 1. Step 2 is recognizing you can just let go to start moving. You don't have to go, and I'm exaggerating, but this is exactly how most people walk. They go, and they use a bunch of musculature to start their movement. Even many Aikidoka and Tai Chi people I know, it's just like this, okay, I'm gonna lift this leg and lift this leg. I don't lift my legs when I walk. I know that sounds counterintuitive. I actually just practice falling my center forward. And what ends up happening, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but what ends up happening is, as I'm following this direction, this whole structure, my iliopsoas particularly, gets stretched. And then as that foot leaves the ground, loses its traction point, the iliopsoas particularly, there's all these muscles are kind of involved, but the iliopsoas go, and they get stretched out because they're the muscles, by the way, that do this. They attach to the lesser tubercle here. The iliacus is the muscle that's like right down in this scoop in your bone, and the psoas is a muscle that runs up the edges of the inside of your spine. It's your deepest abdominals. I think technically both of them are kind of, I think the psoas I think is technically your deepest abdominal, and I think this is kind of the second deepest. Kinesiology, it's a little bit outside of my purview to try and remember which was which. It doesn't really matter. The point is that they both do this action, right? So when they're getting pulled this way, they're getting stretched. And so basically, really good walking is a function of the bones, the same way Aikido is. And that's really a thing. Like if you study the kinesiology of walking, it's a lot harder for me with my short leg, long leg thing, but basically you're just letting your iliopsoas stretch and then it snaps. Stretch, snap, stretch, snap. And that's good walking. And if you're doing this stuff, and again, I'm exaggerating, but if you're doing that kind of stuff, it's really just terrible walking. So letting this stretch to become your walk. That's how I walk. I don't even think of lifting ever. I still lift sometimes. I have a lot of tension. I'm in tons of pain. I have lots of stuff going on in me that I'm not able to let go of. I work on it, broken back out of place, right? So, whatever. But to the point, I don't deliberately lift. Even when I'm doing Tai Chi, it's funny to say, I don't deliberately lift. I sink, 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 sink. And once all of my weight is in that sunken place, this foot is up. If all of my weight is in that foot, there's no weight there. So how do I sink to make that happen? And we're going to do a whole lesson on that at some point. But coming back to it, the point being, I relax in the direction that I want to go. And that is good movement. So I think I've made my point. Play around with it quite a lot. What does it mean to relax to make a shape happen? Make sure you play around with some ground shapes like I was showing you to. Like you can be in all sorts of positions and be like, okay, we often, we think move from the center, and that is true. But there's a hard way of doing movement from center, and there's a soft way. And so what we want to learn how to do is say, well, what's holding me up forward right now is really my arms. So if I let go of those, I start to fall. And what ends up happening as I start to fall is my arms say, oh, I better get out there. And it's the same when I'm coming off of here or when I'm walking, is I send my center forward to the tipping point. I'm standing here. I'm going to do it really slow. I send my center forward to the tipping point and fall. Now, there's two ways of sending that center forward, and the softer one is the one I'm looking for, where I just let go to make it happen. And then there's a little bit more of a deliberate version of it, where you're like, well, how can I here's a really good example. This is where the Tai Chi knowledge is going to become more important, is that if I want to move over here, well, if I totally relax, my body actually wants to be at 50-50. So when I'm coming over here, I'm actually firing a little bit of musculature. I am letting go on the side I want to move towards. But there has to be a little bit of this stuff deliberately engaging to draw me over. And so that's where you add just that little bit of yang, right? Just a little bit of yang. If you look at the Tai Chi symbol, yin and yang, right? The little dots represent that there's always a little bit of yang in the yin and always a little bit of yin in the yang. They're inseparable on a certain level. And Tai Chi really spends the time talking about hard, soft more carefully, really examining what are hard elements and soft elements and how do we take it apart and how do we put it back together. So we will be coming around to that more complex discussion about movement from center and like when you're going into a position where you can't just relax to get there. But when you're talking about just everyday motion and you're just talking about walking or just basic motion, the more you can just let go to make the motion happen, the more perfect it is. And I highly recommend playing around with this on the ground. We're also going to play around with some things on the ground as we're doing these movement quality series. Yeah, okay, I'm probably rambling just a little bit at this point. The point being, I think you have it. Work with, how do I relax to start that motion from now on? And when I'm in pain, I go to start motion so often. Catch yourself. Work with it, and yeah, ask me any questions and comments. Like I said, there's a gradual progression here. Starting from here, it's very easy to just walk out into space by letting go. But again, when you get to the Tai Chi movements, it's like, well, wait a second. I'm going from foot to foot without ever falling out of my cone. I'm standing in this circle right now, and if I'm standing here, it's when I fall outside of that the Aikido work tends to happen. perfect on me. Whereas Tai Chi is a little bit more like, well, what do we do inside of this cone? So that they do have some key differences. And again, you're going to find there's a little bit of yang in the yin, a little bit of yin in the yang. Yeah, give it a shot. Play with just letting go to make your motion happen. Make it happen all day long. When you see that crash bar up ahead of you, how do you fall into that crash bar to make it happen? How do you have that? Let's see, I don't have anything solid I can strike from here, but to the point, your arm should already be in place. You shouldn't hit the crash bar and go, oh, have your frame in place is what I'm pointing to. But yeah, just practice falling and letting go and seeing how that helps your everyday quality of motion and your Aikido. Your Aikido particularly studies this information set, especially you guys up at Sensei Bennett's, Sensei Rob and stuff. So yeah, I think I've got it. Give it a shot.